Hey guys, how's it going? I just wanted to do a quick review on one of my new favorite tools. I did another review on some M12 tools that I bought, and there's one in particular that I got a little bit later. I got it from eBay. It was new, open box or damaged box, something like that. But it's basically brand new, except it was pretty much half price. I think I paid like 70 bucks for it, something like that, and that's free shipping. I have the M12 right angle impact wrench also, and that's a really cool tool, but it's a little too big to use inside the motor. So I just have the regular M12 ratchet, and I didn't realize how much power it actually had. And not that it's more powerful than the right angle impact wrench, not by any means. Actually, I think it's more like 30 foot-pounds as opposed to 200, I think, for the right angle impact wrench. The biggest thing for me is it can get in a lot more places, a lot tighter places. So recently I was doing some work on my 1997 Dodge Viper, and I had an issue that's kind of been ongoing since I bought this car, where the idle would hang a little bit. And so to get rid of that hanging idle, what I did was I just replaced I have a 70 millimeter throttle body. There's two throttle bodies that go on here, made by Accufab. They're really nice looking. Let me see, I'll show you one. So they're polished, they're pretty, a lot better looking than the factory ones. The problem is, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you this, I think this is the problem anyway, but if you look around the edges, and here it kind of makes it look a little bit exaggerated, but there's basically a gap around the outside that shouldn't be there, so it doesn't really seal. And so the problem that happens is when you're sitting at idle, it'll idle a little bit higher, and then when you're throttling down or idling to a stop sign or a stoplight, something like that, that gap, the gap around the outside will be letting a little bit more air in, and so it'll run a little bit lean, cause it to rev a little bit higher, and basically has a hanging idle that'll stick around 1500, which is really annoying and embarrassing. It comes back down after a few seconds, but you know, I just didn't want that. So what I initially did was, let me go to the other side. So one thing you can do to get around that is just use some type of spacer to basically make a smaller diameter in the idle air intake. So this basically will sit inside there, and it'll restrict the amount of air that can go through there. That'll trick the motor into letting a less amount of air in, and that'll compensate for the larger amount that the throttle bodies was letting in. It's not ideal, but it does work. So rather than doing that, I just went ahead and swapped out the throttle bodies. But what I had to do when I swapped them out is, because it was a 70 millimeter intake tube, or 70 millimeter throttle body, the coupling was just a little bit larger. So this is I think 62. I can't remember the number actually. Anyway, it's a smaller diameter on this throttle body, so I had to get a coupler to kind of compensate for that. I have the aftermarket intake on here. So the one thing that kind of annoys me is just this little label here. So I'll do a demo with my ratchet. So this first one is pretty easy to get. I'd be able to use pretty much any tool here. So here's where I would struggle, a little bit tighter. And that a bit more. So that's it. Added bonus is it matches the motor. But yeah, works pretty well. It's not too expensive. I'm gonna get a lot of use out of it. Now I don't have to stare at the red label anymore, and I got a nice new favorite tool. If I was gonna pick a second favorite tool, maybe even first, I'd probably tie them up. This 3/8" stubby is pretty awesome. So if you're looking to get into a new set of tools, for me, I have a bunch of DeWalt 18-volt stuff here. I finally took the plunge into the 20-volt DeWalt. Then I decided I want to take a peek at the Milwaukee 12-volt stuff. It seemed more catered towards like automotive stuff and just smaller tools in general, but still powerful enough to be under a vehicle and knock out the majority of rusted bolts and stuff like that. So yeah, if you're interested in the M12 stuff, I highly recommend starting out with the Ratchet and the stubby.